You wake up to the sound of coal being delivered outside your window. It's 1908, and you're living in a comfortable middle-class home in suburban London. The sun is just beginning to filter through the heavy velvet curtains of your bedroom, casting long shadows across the William Morris wallpaper that your wife insisted upon last spring. The pattern of intertwining leaves and flowers seems to dance in the early morning light, a testament to the arts and crafts movement that has captured the imagination of so many households like yours. The house is already stirring with activity, though you can't see it yet. Downstairs, your cook, Mrs. Henderson, has been up since 5 o'clock, lighting the kitchen range and beginning preparations for the day's meals. The scullery maid, barely 14 and new to service, is likely fumbling with the heavy copper pots, trying not to wake the household with too much clanging. You can almost hear the whispered instructions, the careful choreography of domestic life that keeps your world running smoothly. Let me paint you a picture of what your day will look like, because in many ways it's a day that represents the height of an empire, the calm before one of history's greatest storms. The Edwardian era, named for King Edward VII, who ruled from 1901 to 1910, was a time of unprecedented prosperity for Britain's middle and upper classes. It was also a time when the old world was beginning to crack at its foundations, though few could see the fractures yet. Your bedroom reflects this prosperity. The mahogany furniture is solid and well crafted, imported perhaps from the colonies that still paint the map red across a quarter of the globe. On your bedside table sits a photograph in a silver frame, your wedding portrait from 1895, when Victoria was still on the throne, and the world seemed more certain somehow. Your wife's Gibson girl hairstyle is perfectly arranged in the photograph, her high-collared dress speaking to the modesty and respectability that defines your social circle. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. You're still lying in bed, listening to the sounds of London waking up. Horse hooves clip-clop past your window, the milk cart making its morning rounds. Soon you'll hear the postman's knock, twice daily deliveries being one of the marvels of modern efficiency that you've come to take for granted. The telegram boy might come too, though you hope not. Telegrams often bring news that can't wait for the regular post, and such news is rarely good news. If you're finding this soothing, you might want to dim your lights and settle in comfortably. History has a way of wrapping around us like a warm blanket when we let it. And today we're going to spend time in an era that was both simpler and more complicated than our own. You finally rise from bed, your feet finding the cold wooden floor despite the Turkish rug beside your bed. The morning routine begins, and it's a ritual that would seem both familiar and foreign to us today. You wash with water from the pitcher and basin on your washstand. Running water is still a luxury in many homes, though yours is modern enough to have it downstairs in the kitchen and the small water closet installed just 3 years ago. Your clothes are laid out for you as they are every morning. Your wife has seen to this, as she sees to so many details that keep your life running smoothly. The shirt is starched to perfection, the collar high and stiff enough to remind you to hold your head just so. The waistcoat, the jacket, the pocket watch chain, each piece is armor against the world, a uniform that announces your place in society's grand hierarchy. As you dress, you might think about the day ahead. If you're typical of your class and time, you work in the city, perhaps in banking, insurance, or trade. The morning commute will take you through streets that are changing rapidly. Motor cars are becoming more common, though they still frighten the horses and draw curious stares. The Underground Railway system has revolutionized London life, allowing people like you to live in the suburbs while working in the heart of the empire. Here's something that might interest you. Historians often debate whether the Edwardian era was truly as golden as it seemed, or if we're looking back through rose-colored glasses. The reality is that it was golden for some, challenging for others, and absolutely transformative for everyone. The period saw incredible technological advancement. The first powered flight occurred in 1903, Radio was becoming practical, and electricity was starting to light up homes and streets. At the same time, social tensions were rising, women were demanding the vote, and labor movements were gaining strength. But for now, you're still getting dressed, still part of the comfortable routine that defines your day. Your reflection in the mirror shows a man of substance, well-fed, well-groomed, confident in his place in the world. The mustache is properly waxed, the hair neatly parted and held in place with pomade. You look, in short, exactly like what you are, a successful English gentleman in the prime of life, and the height of his civilization's power. Downstairs, the household has been functioning for hours already. The hierarchy of an Edwardian home was as rigid and complex as the society it reflected. At the top, your wife manages the domestic sphere with the same attention to detail that you bring to your business affairs. Below her, the servants maintain their own pecking order. Mrs. Henderson, the cook, commands respect in the kitchen. The parlor maid takes pride in her position above the scullery maid. If you employ a housemaid and perhaps a gardener who comes twice a week, each knows their place and their duties. This might seem oppressive to modern ears, but it provided structure and security in its own way. Domestic service was one of the largest employers of working-class women, and while the work was hard, it offered steady employment, room and board, and a chance for respectable working-class girls to learn skills that might help them better their positions in life. You make your way downstairs, your footsteps echoing slightly in the hallway. The house smells of beeswax polish, coal smoke, and the breakfast preparations wafting up from the kitchen. These are the scents of comfort, of home, of a world that knows its place and its rhythms. The dining room awaits you, and here's where we can really sink into the texture of Edwardian life. The table is set with the precision of a military operation. Your wife has overseen every detail, from the proper placement of the silverware to the selection of the china pattern. The morning paper, likely the Times, is folded beside your place setting. The headlines might speak of political tensions in Europe, or perhaps the latest developments in the South African colonies, but these feel distant from your immediate concern. Your wife enters, and her appearance tells its own story about this era. Her corset has shaped her figure into the fashionable S-curve silhouette of the period, a silhouette that required significant engineering to achieve. Her hair is arranged in the elaborate Gibson girl style that can take an hour or more to perfect. Her dress, while beautiful, requires assistance to put on properly. She is in many ways a work of art, but also a prisoner of fashion's demands. The breakfast itself is a substantial affair. This isn't the quick coffee and toast of modern life, but a proper meal designed to fuel you through a long day. Porridge, perhaps followed by eggs and bacon, toast with butter and marmalade, and strong tea. The food reflects both abundance and routine, the same patterns repeated day after day, providing comfort through familiarity. As you eat, you might discuss the day's plans with your wife. Perhaps she'll be receiving callers this afternoon, or planning tomorrow's dinner party menu with Miss Henderson. The social obligations of middle-class Edwardian life were complex and time-consuming. Every interaction had its protocols, every relationship its proper forms and boundaries. Here's something fascinating about this period. The tension between innovation and tradition was everywhere. Your wife might be reading about the suffragette movement in the paper, but she's unlikely to support it publicly. The motor car represents the future, but you still keep a horse for Sunday drives in the country. Electric lighting is modern and exciting, but gas lamps provide such a warm, comfortable glow. After breakfast, you prepare for your journey to work. The morning commute is one of the new rhythms of modern life, something that would have been unimaginable to your grandfather, who likely lived and worked in the same small area his entire life. But the Underground Railway has made suburban living possible, and with it a new kind of life that separates work from home, public from private, in ways that are still shaping how we live today. The walk to the station takes you through streets that are theaters of social observation. The postman making his rounds, the baker's boy with his basket of fresh bread, the knife grinder calling his trade. Each represents a piece of the complex economic puzzle that keeps society functioning. You nod to neighbors, tip your hat to ladies of your acquaintance, and maintain the careful social dance that marks you as a gentleman. The underground station is a marvel of engineering and organization. The Metropolitan Railway, opened in 1863, was the world's first underground passenger railway, and by your time it had grown into a comprehensive network that made London's growth possible. The stations smell of coal smoke and humanity. The platforms echo with the sounds of hundreds of people going about their daily business. As you wait for your train, you might observe the social mixing that the underground has made possible. Clerks stand next to bankers, shop girls next to society ladies. There's democratizing quality to public transport, though the rigid social hierarchies of the era ensure that interactions remain properly formal. The train itself is a testament to industrial achievement. The carriages are divided into classes, of course, first, second, and third. But even third class represents a level of comfort and speed that would have amazed your ancestors. As you settle into your first-class compartment, you might unfold your Mormon paper and catch up on the news of the empire. And what news it was. The year 1908 brought the Young Turk Revolution in the Ottoman Empire, continued unrest in Russia following the 1905 revolution, and growing tensions in the Balkans that would eventually explode into World War. But these distant troubles feel abstract from your comfortable train seat, filtered through the measured prose of the times, intellectual curiosities rather than immediate threats. The journey gives you time to think, to observe, to participate in one of the great rituals of modern urban life. Through the train windows you can see London changing as you travel toward the city. The suburban streets give way to denser neighborhoods, then to the commercial and financial heart of the empire. Every mile represents layers of history, centuries of growth and change compressed into a 20-minute railway journey. Here's something worth pondering as your train clickety-clacks toward the city. The Edwardian era was Britain's last moment as the undisputed master of the world. The empire was at its greatest extent. British industry still led the world, and the Royal Navy ruled the waves. But other powers were rising. Germany was industrializing rapidly. America was becoming an economic giant, and new technologies were changing the nature of power itself. Your train pulls into the station, and you join the flow of humanity emerging onto the London streets. The city in 1908 is a place of incredible energy and activity. Horse-drawn traffic still dominates, but motor cars are becoming more common. The sounds are different from today. More horses, more street vendors calling their wares. Less mechanical noise, but somehow more human noise. The buildings around you represent centuries of commercial evolution. Medieval church spires rise above Georgian terraces, and new Victorian commercial blocks. The architecture tells the story of London's growth, from a small medieval city to the financial capital of the world. Every stone speaks of ambition, wealth, and the confidence of a civilization at its peak. Your office building might be one of the new steel-framed structures going up around the city, or perhaps a more traditional stone building that speaks to the permanence and respectability of your firm. Either way, it represents your place in the great machinery of commerce that keeps the empire running. The work itself might involve international trade, insurance for ships carrying goods across the oceans, or banking transactions that span continents. This is the era when the sun never sets on the British Empire was literally true. Your business decisions might affect tea plantations in Ceylon, rubber plantations in Malaysia, or gold mines in South Africa. Your office reflects the masculine world of Edwardian commerce. Heavy furniture, leather-bound ledgers, the smell of pipe tobacco and ink. If you employ clerks, they work at high desks with steel pens, copying documents by hand and calculating figures with mechanical precision. The telephone is still relatively new and exciting, though telegraph cables carry most long-distance communication. The lunch break provides another window into Edwardian social life. You might walk to your club, that peculiarly British institution that provided a home away from home for gentlemen of your class. The club serves excellent food, maintains an impressive library, and offers comfortable chairs where you can read the papers or discuss the issues of the day with like-minded men. Club life was serious business in the Edwardian era. Your club membership marked your social position as clearly as your address or your tailor. The conversations over lunch might touch on politics, business, sport, or literature. The empire might be discussed, the latest developments in the Balkans analyzed, the prospects for the new parliament debated. Here's something that might make you smile. Edwardian gentlemen took their leisure very serious. Golf was becoming popular. Cricket remained the summer obsession, and many men spent considerable time and energy on hobbies like photography, butterfly collecting, or antiquarianism. The idea that a gentleman should have consuming interests outside his professional work was part of what defined respectability. After lunch, the afternoon's work continues. Perhaps you're reviewing contracts for trade with Australia, or arranging insurance for a cargo ship bound for India. The paperwork might seem tedious, but you're participating in a global system of trade and finance that was more extensive and sophisticated than anything the world had ever seen. The afternoon also brings the second post-delivery, and with it perhaps letters from business associates in other parts of the empire. Communications that took months just a generation ago now take weeks, thanks to steamship routes and telegraph cables that span the ocean. You're living through a revolution in communications that's shrinking the world in ways that would have seemed magical to your grandfather. As the working day winds down, you might reflect on the curious nature of your time. You're living in an age of unprecedented prosperity and technological advancement, yet also an age when change is accelerating in ways that feel both exciting and unsettling. The motor car promises to revolutionize transport. The wireless suggests possibilities for instant communication across vast distances, and new scientific discoveries are challenging old certainties about the nature of reality itself. The journey home reverses your morning commute, but the evening train has a different character. The day's work is done, conversations are more relaxed, and there's time to observe your fellow passengers more closely. The clerk heading home to his modest suburban house, the banker returning to his larger establishment, the shopgirl ending her long day. Each represents a different slice of Edwardian society, all participating in the great experiment of modern urban living. As your train emerges from the underground into the suburbs, you can see the evidence of London's rapid growth everywhere. New streets are being laid out, new houses built, new communities forming. This suburban expansion represents one of the great social changes of the era, the creation of a new kind of middle-class life that separates home from work, creates new patterns of family life, and establishes new relationships between different social classes. Your own street welcomes you home with familiar sights and sounds. The gas lamps are being lit by the lamplighter making his evening rounds, a reminder that even in this age of electricity, older technologies persist. The smell of coal smoke from kitchen chimneys speaks to the preparation of evening meals in houses up and down the street. Your front door opens to reveal the domestic world that your wife has been managing all day. The house has been cleaned, the furniture polished, the dinner planned and prepared under her supervision. This division of labor, men in the public world of business, women in the private world of the home, was both the foundation of middle-class respectability and increasingly questioned by those demanding votes for women and greater opportunities for female participation in public life. The evening meal is another ritual that speaks to the values and rhythms of Edwardian life. The dining room is properly set, the family gathers at the appointed time, and the meal proceeds with the kind of formality that reinforces social bonds and family hierarchy. The conversation might touch on the day's events, plans for the weekend, or perhaps discussion of the dinner party you're hosting next week. Here's something worth considering as you imagine this domestic scene. The Edwardian home was designed to be a sanctuary from the increasing pace and complexity of modern life. The heavy furniture, the comfortable rooms, the established routines, all served to create a sense of stability and permanence in a world that was changing more rapidly than ever before. After dinner, the evening's entertainment might include reading aloud, music, or perhaps cards. The piano in the drawing room isn't just furniture. It's the center of domestic entertainment. Your wife might play, or perhaps your eldest daughter, who's learning the pieces that every accomplished young lady should know. The music fills the house with melody and harmony, literally creating the soundtrack for family life. The evening is also time for correspondence, letters to family members perhaps, or responses to social invitations. The art of letter writing was still highly developed, and a well-written letter was a mark of education and refinement. The careful penmanship, the proper forms of address, the elegant phrasing, all reflected the writer's place in society and understanding of social expectation. As the evening progresses, you might retire to your study with a book and a pipe. This is your private space, lined with books that reflect your interests in education. Perhaps you're reading the latest novel by H.G. Wells or Arnold Bennett, or maybe a biography of some great figure from Britain's imperial past. The study represents the life of the mind, the importance placed on self-improvement and intellectual development that marked the educated classes of the era. The books on your shelves tell their own story about Edwardian intellectual life. There might be volumes of poetry by Tennyson or Kipling, history celebrating British achievements around the globe, scientific works that attempt to explain the latest discoveries about electricity, radiation, or the nature of matter itself. Each book represents a conversation between you and the great minds of your time, a participation in the intellectual life of your civilization. Your wife might spend her evening with needlework, a novel, or perhaps planning the household's activities for the coming days. Her world is no less complex than yours, but it operates according to different rules and different expectations. The management of a middle-class household required considerable skill, knowledge, and organizational ability. From supervising servants to planning menus to maintaining the social connections that were essential to family prosperity, our work was both invisible and absolutely crucial to the family's success. Here's something that might surprise you. Edwardian women, despite legal and social restrictions, often wielded considerable influence within their prescribed spheres. The wife who managed her household efficiently, maintained important social connections, and raised accomplished children was performing work that was both highly valued and absolutely essential to her family's social position. As bedtime approaches, the household begins its nightly routine. The servants complete their final tasks of the day, banking the fires, checking the locks, preparing for tomorrow's early start. Upstairs, the bedrooms are prepared, hot water bottles filled, clothes laid out for the morning. The bedroom you return to is the same one where we began this day, but now it's evening, and the house has settled into the quiet rhythms of night. The curtains are drawn against the darkness outside, the bed turned down, the room prepared for rest. Through the windows you might hear the distant sounds of London settling down for the night, the clip-clop of late hansom cabs, the call of a night watchman, the whistle of a late train heading out to the suburbs. As you prepare for bed, you might reflect on the day that's passed. It was in many ways an ordinary day, the kind of day that thousands of men like you lived throughout the Edwardian era. But it was also a day that represented a particular moment in history, a brief period when the old certainties still seemed solid and the future still seemed predictable. What you couldn't know, lying there in your comfortable bed in 1908, was how quickly that world would change. Within 6 years, the Great War would shatter the comfortable assumptions of Edwardian life. The young men who served your clubs and staffed your offices would march off to the trenches of France and Belgium. The social hierarchies that seemed so natural and permanent would be challenged and transformed. The empire that colored the map red would begin its slow retreat from global dominance. But perhaps that's what makes this moment so precious in historical memory. The Edwardian era represents the last time when progress seemed inevitable, when the future seemed bright, when the benefits of civilization seemed clearly to outweigh its costs. It was a brief golden age, all the more valuable because it was so fragile. The house around you settles into sleep, the servants in their attic rooms, your wife beside you, the children in the nursery dreaming their innocent dreams. Outside, London sleeps too, confident in its prosperity, secure in its power, unaware of the storms gathering on the horizon. This is the paradox of history. We can never fully understand our own time, but we can sometimes glimpse the patterns and meanings of the past. The Edwardian family, going about their daily routines, had no idea they were living through what would later be remembered as a golden age. They were simply living their lives, doing their work, loving their families, and trying to make sense of their rapidly changing world. In the darkness of your Edwardian bedroom, surrounded by the solid furniture and familiar sense of home, you drift toward sleep. Tomorrow will bring another day much like this one. The same routines, the same comforts, the same quiet confidence in the permanence of your world. The coal will be delivered, the breakfast prepared, the train taken to the city, the work completed, the evening rituals observed. And perhaps that's the most important thing we can learn from spending a day in 1908. That history is made up of ordinary days lived by ordinary people who thought they were simply getting on with their lives. The grand sweep of historical change happens one breakfast at a time, one train journey at a time, one evening by the fire at a time. The Edwardian age was ending, though no one knew it yet. The world of 1914 would be recognizably similar to the world of 1908, but the world of 1918 would be transformed beyond recognition. Change, when it comes, often comes faster than anyone expects, but in the moment, in the comfortable routine of daily life, everything seems permanent and secure. So let the sounds of Edwardian London fade into silence. Let the clip-clop of horses give way to the quiet of a sleeping city. Let yourself drift back through time to your own bed, your own life, carrying with you perhaps a sense of connection to those long ago people who lived their lives with such dignity and hope. History is not just dates and events and famous people. It's the accumulation of millions of ordinary days lived by ordinary people who loved and worked and worried and hoped, just as we do. In spending a day with them, we honor their memory, and perhaps understand our own time a little better. Sweet dreams, and thank you for taking this journey back to 1908. If you enjoyed this glimpse into Edwardian life, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more historical journey. Let me know in the comments what historical period you'd like to visit next. There are so many stories waiting to be told, so many ordinary days that reveal extraordinary truths about the human experience. Until next time, sleep well, and remember that you too are living in history, creating the ordinary moments that future generations might look back on with wonder and nostalgia. The day you've just lived through is as worthy of attention and memory as any day in 1908. And perhaps someday someone will try to imagine what it was like to be you, in your time, living your particular version of the human story.